The 1930s were a tough time to be alive. After enduring years of economic recessions, the birth of radical political movements, and an all-encompassing world war just around the corner, there was pressure all over the world to highlight their nation's prowess and might. Those problems were also present in Great Britain. As a result, we got this. Before I start, this video is brought to you by nobody, but it would be cool if you drop a subscription. I don't talk strictly about chips if that's what you're here for, so give some of my other content a try. Anyways, this beautiful hunk of metal is the Queen Elizabeth. Ah yes, a ship named after a queen, christened by a future queen to serve the same queen in the future. Does it make sense? Well, too bad, we have to carry on. She was essentially just an improvement of her sister, the Queen Mary. That explains some major changes like the lack of a well deck and more noticeably, an entire fucking funnel. Those Brits really know how to time their ship constructions because she was very not finished by the time World War II started. She really didn't like the toxic vibe Europe had at the time, so the Queen was sent to the land of the free, home of the brave, the United States of America. Oh, God bless America! After running to New York, she stood there for some time being a professional dust collector. All this happened in 1940, by the way. I thought I should point that fact out. In 1941, she was sent to Asia for troop transport duties. I can only assume that's where she spent most of her time. The Wikipedia page doesn't go into further detail. When the war ended, she could, for the first time, enter into the port she was registered at. It only took her 5 years, but we got there eventually. Fun fact, the two queens were forbidden from competing with each other for the speed record. I can only imagine because of fuel costs. Just imagine sailing along on your 85,000 ton machine and then an 86,000 ton behemoth just runs past you.
What the bloody hell just happened?
I think I'd be kinda pissed, or I would blow a load right then and there. In 1947, she ran aground on a sandbank close to Southampton like an idiot and was somehow refloated the very next day. Imagine people working that fast today. All Amazon orders would be same-day shipping, Jesus Christ. In 1955, some fins were fitted on to make the Queen Elizabeth look more like a fish, and to help with rolling too, I guess. Once again, the ship had an incident in 1955 when she collided with a ship called the American Hunter. Judging by that name, she was definitely a Russian-registered ship. By the 1960s, she was starting to show her age, and now that these tin cans were starting to populate the sky, they were stealing all of her passengers. Even after a massive refit in the 60s, she was still too expensive to operate, and Cunard realized that they had to sell her and Queen Mary before shit hit the fan. So in 1968, she was yeeted. Beyond even! Get out of my transatlantic crossing! This is where things get really interesting. The original plan was to make her a floating hotel in Port Everglades in Florida. Now, if you aren't aware, her sister, the Queen Mary, is herself a hotel in Long Beach. So there's an alternate universe somewhere where this was profitable, and I am bummed out that I am not in that universe. Ironically, she was forcibly closed because she was a fire hazard. Now things got really wacky. She was sold to a Hong Kong tycoon with the purpose of turning her into a floating university. Anyways, after being bought, they were convinced that she could sail to Hong Kong on her own. From Florida to Hong Kong with a ship whose engines were neglected for a few years. If those guys didn't sink by the time they got to Cuba, they would be successful. They even hired a retired Commodore and staff to tail her, but even they knew what a stupid idea it was. On top of all that goofy shit, they fought boiler troubles and a fucking engine fire. The alternate choice was just to tow the ship, but that's too much work. By the guidance of God himself, she managed to arrive in Hong Kong in 1971. Just before she was converted, someone deliberately set her on fire for no reason, I guess. Anyway, she capsized because all of the water sprayed on her to prevent the fire spreading. I mean, I guess they succeeded. Technically. After very clearly being a shipping hazard for 2 years, she was partially scrapped, and then what was left of her was buried to construct an airport. What a way to add salt to injury. Segue to the conclusion. Even though she is mostly caught in the shadow of her much popular sister, considering that, you know, one of them still exists, it is important not to forget the ships that shaped history in their own ways, however big that impact was. As for me, well, I'm just a man telling the legend of a ship that once was, destined to spend my days blabbering on about how you should go to the gym, hate modern architecture, watch old YouTube, and anything else in the future. Wink wink. What a nice ship. What's that boy thick? God damn.